Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how you can use the grinder on the Sage Barista Express to create some really good pour over coffee. Now this can be super useful if you've bought like a bunch of coffees that you find that you've paid a lot of money for and you don't want them to throw them away or go to waste, but you're just finding you're not getting a decent pull through the Sage Barista Express. And that could be for various reasons, and it could be the coffee grind, it could be the type of coffee, all those things that we've covered on the past videos. Now I've been doing a bunch of Amazon top 10 coffees and you found that some of those I've had to put on a really fine grind to pull a decent shot. But I actually like, as an alternative, to use this pour over method with coffees that I find that are just not doing so well on the machine, but I still want a really nice coffee. And I love the pour over method. It's a nice relaxing way to start your morning and get a great tasting coffee. So what I'm going to show you today is how I use the pour over method and how I use the grinder and the grinder settings to grind my coffee and use the pour over equipment to get a really nice cup of coffee in the morning. So what you're going to need to do the pour over is a really simple bunch of equipment. Now I've got a few things here to show you, but you only need one of these really and you'll get a really good cup of coffee. So a couple of different options. You've got one which allows you simply a metal filter that has got some holes through it that allows the coffee to filter through, that you can stick top of your coffee cup, and then you pour the coffee on top and water through it, and obviously that flows into the coffee cup. So that's a really simple method. You can also get ones which allows you to place something on top and then place that on top. Here, this isn't the right one for this, but you get the idea. So it filters through into your coffee cup. And then the most popular option is something like this, which is by Bodium, which is a nice glass container, which has a large filter on top. You place that on top, filter your coffee through, and then you've got a nice set coffee for multiple people, depending on how many people that you're serving. So they're the basic options. Now you can just use your normal kettle to pour it over, but I recommend getting a pour over kettle because it's got a nice fine spout that allows you to control the flow of water over your coffee beans. So that can be really nice, and it gives you a slightly better way of doing it. And finally, obviously some weighing scales to obviously weigh out your coffee, which you've probably already got if you've got a Sage Barista Express anyway. For this, we need to use obviously some coffee beans that may have not had the best pull on our Sage Barista Express, but we want to get a different flavour profile. And that's what's really good about this, is that you can get some coffee beans that you found tasted bloody awful on your machine, can taste really nice using the pour over technique, and you get a nice long shot of coffee and it tastes really good. So it's a nice way of reusing the beans that you may have not liked in the first place, so it's worth a try. We're going to use 30 grams of beans when we do our pour over, so we need a lot more beans, and they need to be kind of around about a medium grind, because anything too fine will actually get stuck in this filter and the coffee won't filter through. So you just find water sits at the top and it can't actually flow through. So we don't want it at that espresso grind, we want it to be kind of a medium grind, and 30 grams, quite a high volume, and you get a nice strong profile. So don't think that because this is a pour over, it's not going to be as strong a flavour or it's not going to have as much caffeine. You really do feel it because of the volume we're using of coffee beans. You do get a nice strong cup of coffee. On that note, you might find that some of the beans that gave you a very harsh taste or acidic flavour may have a slightly more mellow flavour because we're not putting pressure through the beans, and you might get a better flavour profile and something that you can is more palatable for you and that you can enjoy and drink on a daily basis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by grinding these beans, 30 grams worth on a 6 on the machine as kind of like a medium for me, and I'll show you exactly the technique I use once I've got these ground. So once you've got your beans ready to grind, using a filter like this, you can simply stick it underneath the grinder and press the grinder button and grind it straight into the filter. So I've now ground my beans, nice and convenient, all goes into this one filter, which is really easy to do. And it's hard to see, but hopefully you can see that's kind of like a medium grind. It's not super fine. So yeah, let's get this ready to put on top of the carafe. So as I mentioned, the actual container itself, I've got some warm water in there just to keep this nice and warm, so when the coffee hits it, it's not going to be super cold and I'm going to get a nice warm cup of coffee. So I'm just going to pour that out and get ready to actually pour the coffee through. So what I'm going to do now is just going to tap this to get it level, and so the coffee is kind of level in the middle of the filter. Put that on top of the filter, and then all I'm going to do, I've got some water that's just pre-boiled here. I'm going to add that to my pour over kettle, and depending on how many cups you want to make, depends on obviously how much water you want to add, but I'm just adding enough for 1 cup, and then place that back on top. And then what we want to do now is pour a small amount of water over the top to actually cause what we call the blooming effect with the coffee. Now, with very, very fresh coffee, you'd find that kind of oxygen would be created and you get bubbles popping through the top. Now, this is one of those 1 kilogram large bags, which isn't super fresh coffee, so we're probably not going to expect that with this style of coffee, but we can still kick off the bloom process anyway. It's almost like the pre-infusion that you do on your Sage Barista Express. So I'm just going to pour that over, and then I'm going to leave it for about 20 to 30 seconds to just give it a chance to bloom. Then after that, we're going to start pouring the coffee through. So just gently pouring over the top a layer of layer of water, just to get all that coffee soaked, and then I'm just going to leave that for about 20 to 30 seconds. As I said, normally you would see lots of bubbles coming off if this was fresh coffee, but obviously in this case it isn't.
A few moments later.
So now we've left that for about 30 seconds. I can now start pouring over and getting my coffee pulling through. So I said, normally with very, very fresh coffee, you would see bubbles coming through the coffee, but not in this case as it's kind of cheap coffee. But we still should get a decent flavour of coffee just by using this method anyway, and be very, very different to what we would have got by using it as a shot of coffee instead. So start pouring this over very, very gently. And we just kind of want to do it in circular kind of motions, making sure we're getting all the coffee and that it's actually coming through, which it is in this case. I can see it dripping through the bottom. Different people say that you should leave it a different amount of time, like 40 seconds or a few minutes, but to be honest, as long as you're getting the coffee coming through and you're not doing it super, super quickly, I find that you still get the similar sort of flavour profile and there isn't any kind of real issues.
A few minutes later.
So all the coffee has now been pulled through, and I've now got this little jug of black coffee, and I'm just going to pour this in my cup. There we go. So looks pretty good. Let's see what it tastes like. So that is a really nice cup of coffee. It's not strong, it's got a nice body to it, it's got a nice medium profile. Now when I did this on the Sage Barista Express, I ended up with something that was super, super strong and it's quite acidic, whereas this has got a completely different flavour profile. So it's a nice mellow coffee, very, very easy to drink. So yeah, definitely worth doing, definitely worth investing in buying some sort of pour over method. So you could have a situation where you might utilise it where you want to keep the noise down, you don't want to use the machine, or you might be working away, you might be on holiday. It's just a really nice way of grinding your coffee. You can keep a bag of coffee or in a jar or something like that, and then you can use this method to make a nice relaxing start to your morning. And that's what I quite like about the pour over method. It's nice and relaxing, it's quite calming, it's a nice way to start your day, rather than going through using technology or equipment. And it's really, really simple, but you get a completely different flavour profile for coffees that you may have thrown away or you may have not even decided to use because you didn't like them originally when you did them on your Sage Barista Express. Hope you found this video useful. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. If you like my content, please give it a thumbs up. It helps to support my channel, and I'll catch you on the next video.